My name is Alexander, and for 2 years I had been living in a marriage that felt more like a beautiful prison than a partnership. I stood before the bathroom mirror that Tuesday morning, studying my reflection as I had done countless times before. My delicate features, high cheekbones, soft jawline, wide hazel eyes, stared back at me with an expression I'd grown accustomed to, resignation mixed with quiet hope. At 23, I should have been in the prime of my life, yet I felt as though I were aging in reverse, becoming more childlike and uncertain with each passing day. Alexander, are you ready? Noah's voice called from the bedroom, pulling me from my reverie. Almost, I replied, smoothing down my cream-colored sweater and taking one final look at myself. Our marriage had begun with such promise. Noah and I had been betrothed as children by our grandparents, who had been the closest of friends. I remembered being 7 years old, holding Noah's hand at our grandparents' garden party, both of us giggling at the idea that one day we'd be married. Back then it seemed like a fairy tale. The wedding itself had been beautiful, a spring ceremony with cherry blossoms falling like snow around us as we exchanged vows. I had worn a dove gray suit, and Noah had looked handsome in navy blue. Our families wept with joy, and I remembered thinking that this was the beginning of everything I'd ever wanted. Then came the wedding night. We had checked into a luxury hotel overlooking the city, and I remembered my nervousness transforming into excitement as we entered our suite. But Noah had sat me down on the edge of the bed, taken my hands in his, and with tears in his eyes, told me something that would define the next 2 years of our lives. Alexander, I need to tell you something, he had said, his voice trembling. I'm not sexually capable. There's a medical condition. I wanted to tell you before, but I was afraid you wouldn't marry me. I remembered the confusion, then the compassion that flooded through me. I had pulled him into my arms, stroking his hair, telling him that it didn't matter, that we would face this together, that love was more than physical intimacy. We'll see doctors, I had promised him. We'll find a solution. I'm not going anywhere. And I had kept that promise. For 2 years we had visited specialist after specialist. Dr. Mick had become our primary physician, a kind man with gentle eyes who always seemed genuinely invested in Noah's case. We tried various treatments, undergone numerous tests, and through it all, I had remained faithful, patient, and hopeful. But there were moments, quiet moments in the early morning or late at night, when loneliness would wrap around me like a heavy blanket. I craved intimacy, not just physical but emotional. I wanted to be held, to be desired, to feel like I was truly someone's partner rather than their caretaker. Alexander? Noah appeared in the bathroom doorway, already dressed in his casual slacks and button-down shirt. We should leave soon. The appointment is at 10. I nodded, gathering the folder of medical documents we always brought to these appointments. Then I froze. Noah, I forgot the new test results from last month. They're in my study at home. Noah's expression tightened slightly, a flash of something I couldn't quite read before it disappeared. We can't reschedule. This appointment took months to get. You go ahead, I suggested, touching his arm gently. I'll grab the file and meet you there. It won't take me more than 30 minutes. He hesitated, and for a moment I thought he might insist we go together. But then he nodded. All right. Don't be too long. I watched him leave, heard the front door close, and felt the familiar emptiness of our apartment settle around me. Our home was beautiful, tastefully decorated with warm colors and comfortable furniture, but it always felt like a showroom rather than a place where two people truly lived together. Shaking off the melancholy, I hurried to my study and found the file exactly where I'd left it. As I drove to the hospital, I found myself thinking about what life might have been like if things were different. What if Noah and I had never been betrothed? What if I had married someone else? What if I had chosen to be alone rather than honor a childhood promise? But I pushed those thoughts away. I had made a commitment and I was determined to see it through. Noah was my husband and I loved him, or at least I loved the person I thought he was. The hospital parking lot was surprisingly empty for a Tuesday morning. I made my way through the familiar corridors, nodding to nurses I'd come to recognize over the months. Dr. Mick's office was on the 3rd floor, and as I approached, I prepared myself for another round of cautious optimism followed by gentle disappointment. But as I reached for the door handle, I heard voices inside. Noah's voice, specifically, with an emotional quality I hadn't heard in years. "Baby, we will soon be together," Noah was saying. "Alexander truly believes I am sexually inactive. He's so naive, so trusting. And I love only you, Mick. Only you." My hand froze on the handle. My heart seemed to stop beating entirely. "Are you sure he doesn't suspect?" That was Dr. Mick's voice, but softer, more intimate than I'd ever heard it. "Positive." He's completely devoted to fixing me. It's almost sad how much effort he puts into our marriage when he has no idea it's all been a lie. I heard the sound of a kiss, soft and tender. The file slipped from my numb fingers and hit the floor with a loud thud. The voices inside went silent. With trembling hands I pushed open the door. The scene before me would be seared into my memory forever. Noah and Dr. Mick standing close together, Mick's hand on Noah's waist, Noah's lips still parted from their kiss. Both of them turned to look at me with identical expressions of shock. "Alexander," Noah started, his face draining of color. "You've been manipulating me," I heard myself say, my voice surprisingly steady despite the tears streaming down my face. "All these years in our marriage. Who is Dr. Mick to you?" Noah's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. "I'm his lover," Mick said quietly, at least having the decency to look ashamed. "We've been together since childhood. Before your betrothal." The world tilted beneath my feet. "How long?" I whispered. "How long has this been going on?" "Since before we got married," Noah admitted, and there was something almost relieved in his confession, as if he'd been waiting to be caught. "There's nothing wrong with me, Alexander. There never was. I couldn't be intimate with you when my heart belonged to someone else." The betrayal cut deeper than any physical pain I'd ever experienced. "So every appointment, every test, every hopeful conversation about our future, it was all a lie? You let me believe I was supporting you through a medical condition when really you were just buying time with your actual lover?" "We were going to tell you," Mick said. "We've been planning to ask for a divorce." "How considerate," I said, my voice breaking. "Were you at least going to tell me before or after you ran off together?" Noah took a step toward me and I backed away, holding up my hand. Don't come near me. Don't touch me. Don't you dare pretend you care now." "Alexander, please." "I want a divorce," I said clearly. "I'll file the papers this week. You can have each other. You can have whatever future you've been planning behind my back. Congratulations on your love. I hope it's everything you dreamed it would be while you were lying to me every single day for 2 years." I turned and walked out of that office with as much dignity as I could muster. I made it to my car, got inside, locked the doors, and then I shattered. I cried until I had no tears left, until my throat was raw and my eyes were swollen. I cried for the years I'd lost, for the trust that had been destroyed, for the naive young man I'd been who had actually believed in the fairy tale his grandparents had promised. When the tears finally subsided, I drove home in a daze. The apartment felt different now, contaminated by Noah's deception. How many times had he brought Mick here? How many lies had been told within these walls? I spent the next week in a blur of legal consultations and paperwork. Noah didn't contest the divorce. In fact, he seemed almost eager to sign the papers. I gave him everything he wanted in the settlement. I didn't care about money or possessions. I just wanted out, wanted to be free of the marriage that had been a sham from the very beginning. "I'm sorry," Noah said on the day we signed the final papers. We were in the lawyer's office and he actually had the audacity to look regretful. "I never meant to hurt you." "But you did," I replied simply. "You hurt me every single day for 2 years. The worst part isn't even the affair, Noah. It's that you let me believe I was the problem. You let me think there was something wrong with our marriage that we needed to fix together, when really you were just using me as cover for your real relationship." "I know. I'm sorry. Your apologies mean nothing to me now. But I'll give you this, I hope you and Mick are happy. I hope you build the life together that you couldn't have with me. Consider it my wedding gift to you both." I walked out of that office and didn't look back. The months following my divorce were some of the darkest of my life. I moved out of the apartment Noah and I had shared and into a small studio on the other side of the city. It was sparse and simple with just the basics. A bed, a small kitchen table, a couch I'd picked up secondhand. But it was mine, untainted by memories of betrayal. I threw myself into temporary work, taking whatever jobs I could find to keep myself busy and my mind occupied. I worked as a barista, a bookstore clerk, a dog walker. Each job was temporary and I preferred it that way. I wasn't ready to commit to anything or anyone, not even a long-term employment situation. My family tried to reach out, but I kept them at arm's length. They had all been so invested in my marriage to Noah, so thrilled about the joining of our two families. Facing their pity or their questions felt like more than I could handle. I sent brief text messages assuring them I was fine, that I needed space, that I would reach out when I was ready. My friends from college were more persistent. Sarah and Marcus would show up at my apartment with food and movies, refusing to take no for an answer. "You can't hide forever," Sarah said one evening, sitting cross-legged on my couch with a container of pad thai. I know you're hurting, but isolating yourself isn't the answer. I'm not isolating, I protested weakly. I'm regrouping. You're hiding, Marcus corrected gently. And we get it, Alexander. What Noah did was unforgivable. But you can't let his betrayal define the rest of your life. I knew they were right, but knowing and feeling were two different things. Every time I thought about opening myself up again, about trusting someone new, the memory of Noah's deception would rise up and choke me. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I found myself staring at my dwindling bank account with growing concern. The temporary jobs weren't cutting it anymore, and I needed something more stable, more lucrative. I had a degree in literature that I'd never done much with, and not a lot of practical job experience outside of retail and service work. That's when I saw the advertisement. Seeking live-in household assistant for private residence. Duties include light housekeeping, meal preparation, and general household management. Generous salary plus room and board provided. Experience preferred but not required. Discretion and professionalism essential. The salary listed was more than generous, it was extraordinary. Triple what I'd been making at my various jobs combined. I read the advertisement 3 times, certain there must be a catch. But desperation and curiosity won out. I submitted an application, not expecting to hear anything back. To my surprise, I received a response within 24 hours, inviting me to an interview at the residence itself. The address led me to one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in the city, where old money lived behind high walls and manicured hedges. The mansion itself was stunning, a modern architectural marvel of glass and stone, with clean lines and expansive windows that seemed to bring the outside in. I pressed the intercom button at the gate and a warm voice answered. Alexander? Come on up. The gate swung open smoothly and I drove up the winding driveway, my hands sweating on the steering wheel. This felt surreal, like I'd somehow stumbled into someone else's life. The man who answered the door took my breath away. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair that fell carelessly across his forehead and the kind of strong, angular features that belonged in a magazine. He wore simple clothes, jeans and a black t-shirt, but somehow made them look elegant. His eyes were a striking blue-gray, and when he smiled at me, I felt something flutter in my chest that I'd thought Noah had killed. Alexander? I'm Andrew. Please come in. His handshake was firm but not aggressive, and his smile seemed genuine. I followed him through a spacious foyer into a living area that was both impressive and inviting. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a garden that looked like it belonged in a botanical magazine. Can I get you something to drink? Coffee? Water? Water would be lovely, thank you. As he moved toward the kitchen, another man descended the stairs. He was equally striking but in a different way, slightly shorter than Andrew with lighter brown hair and warmer brown eyes. Where Andrew had a commanding presence, this man had a gentler, more approachable air. You must be Alexander, he said, extending his hand. I'm Daniel, Andrew's brother. We've been looking forward to meeting you. The interview that followed was unlike any I'd experienced. Rather than grilling me about qualifications and experience, Andrew and Daniel seemed more interested in getting to know me as a person. They asked about my interests, what I liked to read, what kind of music I enjoyed. They showed me around the house, explaining what the position would entail. Essentially, we need someone to help keep the household running smoothly, Andrew explained. Daniel and I both have demanding careers and we're often traveling. We need someone who can manage the house when we're gone and help make it feel like a home when we're here. What exactly do you do? I asked. I'm an architect, Andrew said. Daniel runs an art gallery downtown. Between the two of us, we're rarely home at the same time, which is part of why we need help. The position includes a private suite on the 2nd floor, Daniel added, leading me upstairs to show me the room. Your own bedroom, bathroom, and sitting area. You'd have complete privacy when you're not working. The suite was beautiful, more spacious than my entire studio apartment, with large windows overlooking the garden and tasteful, comfortable furnishings. This is generous, I said, struggling to find words. We believe in treating people well, Andrew said simply. If you take this position, you'd be part of our household. We want you to feel comfortable here. Something in the way he said it made me look at him more carefully. There was warmth in his expression, a kindness that seemed genuine. Can I ask you something personal? Daniel said suddenly. You seem like you might be going through something. Your application mentioned you're looking for a fresh start. You don't have to tell us details if you don't want to, but we believe in transparency here. I hesitated, then decided honesty was the best approach. I recently went through a divorce. It was difficult. I'm looking to rebuild my life, and this position seems like it could give me the stability I need to do that. Andrew and Daniel exchanged a look, and I couldn't quite read the emotion in it. We appreciate your honesty, Andrew said. For what it's worth, we've both been through our own difficulties. We understand what it's like to need a fresh start. They offered me the position on the spot, and I accepted, feeling like I was stepping off a cliff into the unknown. But for the first time in months, I felt something like hope. I moved into the mansion the following week, bringing my meager possessions with me. The suite that Andrew and Daniel had shown me became my sanctuary, a place that was entirely mine, where I could retreat and process everything that had happened. The work itself was surprisingly enjoyable. I managed the household schedule, coordinated with the gardeners and cleaners who came weekly, prepared meals when either or both brothers were home, and generally kept things running smoothly. But more than that, I found myself enjoying the company of my employers. Andrew was brilliant and intense, often working late into the night on architectural designs. He would emerge from his home office looking exhausted, and I'd have a pot of coffee ready and sometimes a light meal. We'd talk about his projects, and he'd show me sketches and blueprints, explaining his vision with an enthusiasm that was infectious. Daniel was warmer and more emotionally available. He'd often invite me to join him for meals, and we'd discuss art and literature. He had an incredible collection of books in his study, and he'd loan them to me freely, always eager to discuss what I thought. What surprised me most was how comfortable I felt with both of them. Despite the betrayal I'd experienced with Noah, despite my determination to guard my heart, I found myself gradually opening up to Andrew and Daniel. They never pushed, never demanded more than I was willing to share, but they were always there, steady, kind, and genuine. 3 months into my employment, I realized something that both thrilled and terrified me. I was developing feelings for them. Both of them. It started with small things that I tried desperately to ignore. The way my heart would skip when Andrew would come down for breakfast, his hair still damp from the shower, smelling of cedar and something uniquely him. How he'd lean against the kitchen counter while I prepared his coffee, telling me about a building he was designing, his eyes lighting up with passion. Or the way Daniel would touch my shoulder gently when passing by, a casual gesture that sent warmth spreading through me. How he'd insist I sit with him while he went through gallery submissions, valuing my opinion even though I had no formal training in art. I told myself it was simply because they were kind to me, because they treated me with respect and dignity after a marriage where I'd felt neither valued nor loved. I told myself it was natural to confuse gratitude with attraction. But then there was the night I found Andrew working in his study at 2 a.m, hunched over his drafting table, the tension evident in his shoulders. "You should rest," I'd said from the doorway, and he turned to look at me with such raw exhaustion that I'd crossed the room without thinking, my hands moving to his shoulders to ease the knots there. He'd gone still beneath my touch, and I'd almost pulled away, worried I'd overstepped. But then he'd relaxed into it, letting out a low sound of relief that had done strange things to my pulse. "Thank you," he'd murmured. "That feels incredible." And I'd realized, with startling clarity, that I wanted to do more than ease his tension. I wanted to take care of him, to be the one he turned to when he was exhausted or frustrated or needed comfort. The same realization hit me with Daniel a week later. We'd been reading in the library together, a routine we'd fallen into on quiet evenings. I'd looked up from my book to find him watching me with an expression I couldn't quite decipher, soft and warm and something more. "What?" I'd asked, self-conscious. "Nothing," he'd said, smiling. "I was just thinking about how much we enjoy having you here. The house feels different now. It feels like a home." The sincerity in his voice had wrapped around my heart and squeezed. I tried to maintain professional distance after that. I reminded myself daily that Andrew and Daniel were my employers, that developing feelings for them was inappropriate and potentially disastrous. I'd already lost myself once in a relationship built on false pretenses. I couldn't afford to make another mistake. But the brothers made it difficult to maintain that distance. They seemed determined to blur the lines between employer and friend, between professional and personal. Andrew started leaving little notes for me, messages thanking me for meals I'd prepared or for remembering some small detail he'd mentioned. They were always brief but somehow intimate, like we shared a secret language. Daniel began inviting me to gallery events as his guest rather than his employee. He'd introduce me to artists and collectors with his hand warm on my back, his pride in showing me his world evident and genuine. I was standing at a dangerous precipice and I knew it. But for the first time since my divorce, I felt alive again. I felt seen and valued. And despite every warning bell in my mind, I couldn't bring myself to step back from the edge. The night everything changed started ordinarily enough. It was a Friday evening and I'd prepared dinner for the three of us, a habit that had developed over the months. Andrew had just returned from a week-long conference, and Daniel had closed the gallery early to be home. The atmosphere felt celebratory, warm, almost familial. We ate together in the formal dining room, something we'd done increasingly often. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and the comfortable silences that come when people are truly at ease with each other. "I have to say, Alexander," Andrew said over dessert, "this meal is incredible. But everything you do is incredible. I don't know how we managed before you came into our lives." There was something in his tone and the way his eyes held mine that made my breath catch. "I'm just doing my job," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Is that really all this is to you?" Daniel asked quietly. "A job?" The question hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. I set down my fork carefully, my hands trembling. "What do you want me to say?" Andrew pushed back his chair and came around to my side of the table. He knelt beside my chair, looking up at me with an intensity that made my heart race. "I want you to say that you feel something for us," he said softly. "I want you to say that these past months have meant as much to you as they have to us. I want you to say that when we're not here you miss us. That when we are here you feel the same pull, the same connection that we feel." Tears pricked at my eyes. "I can't. This is wrong. You're my employers." "You're so much more than an employee," Daniel said, moving to my other side. "You've become essential to us, Alexander. To me. And I hope, we've become important to you too." "You have," I whispered, the admission torn from me. "You both have. But I can't do this. I can't trust my judgment anymore. The last time I trusted someone I was lied to for years. How do I know this is real? How do I know I'm not just desperate for connection and convincing myself of something that doesn't exist?" "Look at me," Andrew said, taking my hand. "Really look at me." I met his eyes, those striking blue-gray depths that had captivated me from the first moment. "What we feel for you is real. What we felt building between us these months is real. Yes, you came here as an employee, but somewhere along the way that changed. You became our friend. Then you became something more. Something we couldn't ignore even if we wanted to." "But both of you?" I asked, my voice breaking. "How can I possibly?" "Daniel and I talked about this," Andrew said. "We talked about our feelings for you, about what we wanted. And we decided that if you felt the same way, if there was any chance you might want this, we would be honest about it. We don't want to pressure you," Daniel added quickly. "If you don't feel the same way, if you want to keep things professional, we'll respect that. But we had to tell you. We had to give you the choice." I looked between them, these two incredible men who had somehow slipped past my defenses and made me feel things I'd thought I'd never feel again. My mind screamed warnings, told me to protect myself, to run before I could be hurt again. But my heart, my battered, scarred heart, was singing a different song. "I'm scared," I admitted. "I'm terrified. But I feel it too. I've tried not to, tried to keep my distance, but I feel it." Andrew's face transformed with his smile. "Then take a chance on us. Let us show you that not all love is a lie. That sometimes the heart knows what it wants even when the mind is afraid." He stood slowly, drawing me up with him, and then his hand was cupping my cheek, his thumb brushing across my skin with infinite gentleness. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, and the fact that he asked, that he gave me the choice, made me love him a little more. "Yes," I breathed. The kiss was everything a first kiss should be, tender and exploratory, full of promise and possibility. Andrew's lips were soft against mine, moving with a careful reverence that made me feel cherished. His hand slid into my hair and I melted into him, letting myself feel without overthinking, without fearing. When we finally pulled apart, I was breathless and a little dazed. "That was..." I started, but words failed me. "Perfect," Andrew finished. "That was perfect." Daniel was watching us with warmth in his eyes. "I'm glad. I'm so glad." The reality of the situation began to sink in, that both brothers had feelings for me, that they were somehow okay with sharing my affection. It was unconventional and complicated, but looking at them, seeing the genuine care in their expressions, I found I didn't care about convention. "This is new territory for me," I said honestly. "For all of us, I think. But I'd like to try. I'd like to see where this goes." "That's all we ask," Daniel said, stepping closer. "And Alexander? We'll go at whatever pace you need. There's no rush, no expectations. Just us figuring this out together." Andrew pulled me into a gentle embrace, and I rested my head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. For the first time in over a year, I felt safe. I felt wanted. I felt like maybe, just maybe, I deserved to be happy again. The weeks that followed were a delicate dance of discovery and boundaries. True to their word, Andrew and Daniel never pushed me further than I was ready to go. They seemed content simply to be near me, to have established that our feelings were mutual. Mornings became my favorite time. I'd wake early to prepare breakfast, and invariably one or both brothers would join me in the kitchen. We'd move around each other with increasing familiarity, exchanging small touches, a hand on my waist as Andrew reached past me for a mug, Daniel's fingers brushing mine as he handed me ingredients. These moments of casual intimacy meant more to me than grand gestures ever could. They spoke of comfort and trust, of the kind of relationship I'd always wanted but never had with Noah. One evening, about 2 weeks after Andrew's first kiss, I was curled up on the living room sofa reading when Daniel settled beside me. He didn't say anything at first, just sat close enough that I could feel his warmth, his presence a comfort rather than an intrusion. "What are you reading?" he finally asked. I showed him the cover, a collection of poetry I'd borrowed from his study. "Ah, Neruda. Good choice. What's your favorite so far?" I flipped to a page I'd marked. "This one. I want to do with you what spring does with the cherry trees." Daniel smiled. "That's beautiful. And apt, I think." "How so?" "Because that's what you've done for us. For this house. You've brought everything to life, made everything bloom." The sincerity in his voice made my throat tight. "You say things like that and I don't know how to respond." "You don't have to respond. I just want you to know how we feel." "How I feel." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "Can I kiss you, Alexander?" My heart stuttered. Yes. Where Andrew's kiss had been intense and passionate, Daniel's was soft and sweet, a gentle exploration that somehow felt just as profound. His hand cradled my face like I was something precious, and I found myself leaning into him, craving more of this tenderness. When we parted, I rested my forehead against his, breathing him in. "Thank you," I whispered. "For what?" "For being patient. For understanding that I need to take this slowly." "We have all the time in the world," Daniel assured me. "There's no rush." But as the days passed, I found myself wanting to rush. The more time I spent with Andrew and Daniel, the more I wanted them. Not just emotionally but physically. I wanted to feel desired again, wanted to experience the intimacy that had been denied me in my marriage to Noah. The problem was, I didn't know how to initiate it. I'd never been with anyone except Noah, and that single experience had been so brief and ultimately disappointing that it hardly counted. I felt inexperienced and uncertain, worried that I wouldn't know what to do or that I'd somehow disappoint the brothers. Andrew seemed to sense my internal struggle. One Saturday evening, when Daniel was at the gallery for a late event and it was just the two of us, he found me in the library staring at a book without really seeing it. "Hey," he said softly, settling beside me on the window seat. "Want to talk about what's on your mind?" I set the book aside. "It's silly." "If it's bothering you, it's not silly." I took a deep breath, gathering my courage. "I've been thinking about taking things further. But I don't know how. I've only ever been with Noah and that was not good. I'm worried I won't know what I'm doing." Andrew's expression softened. "Alexander, look at me." I met his eyes. "First of all, there's no timeline here. We move at your pace always. Second, the fact that you're inexperienced doesn't matter to us. If and when we get to that point, we'll figure it out together. It's not about performance or living up to some standard. It's about being together, about sharing something intimate and meaningful. But what if I'm not enough? What if?" He silenced me with a kiss, deeper than before, his hand threading through my hair. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. "You are more than enough," he said firmly. "You are everything. Don't let Noah's betrayal make you doubt your worth. You are incredible, Alexander, and when you're ready, if you're ready, it will be perfect because it's with you." Tears slipped down my cheeks and he wiped them away gently. "I think I'm ready," I whispered. "Not right this second, but soon. I want this with you. With both of you. I want to feel close to you in every way." Andrew smiled and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. "Then we'll wait until you're absolutely sure. And when that moment comes, I promise you, we will make it so good for you. We will erase every bad memory and replace it with joy." He held me then, just held me, and I felt something inside me begin to heal. The moment came unexpectedly, as the most meaningful moments often do. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and I'd been working in the garden, tending to the roses that had become my special project. The physical labor was meditative, giving me time to think and process everything that had been happening. I heard footsteps on the path and looked up to find Andrew approaching, his sleeves rolled up and his tie loosened. He'd clearly just come from a meeting. "Hey," I said, standing and brushing dirt from my hands. "You're home early. Finished sooner than expected. I was hoping to find you." He took in my appearance, flushed from the sun, hair disheveled, dirt smudged on my cheek. "You look beautiful." I laughed. "I look like a mess. You look happy. That's what makes you beautiful." He reached out, brushing the dirt from my cheek with his thumb, and suddenly the air between us felt charged. His eyes darkened and I felt my breath quicken. "Alexander," he said softly, "can I take you inside?" There was no mistaking his meaning and I felt desire pool in my stomach. This was it, the moment I'd been both anticipating and fearing. "Yes," I said, my voice steady despite my nerves. We walked inside together and Andrew led me not to my suite but to his bedroom. It was a space I'd been in before to clean, but it felt different now, intimate and significant. "Daniel won't be home for a few hours," Andrew said. "But if you want to wait until he's here." "No," I interrupted. "I want this with you. Now." He smiled and pulled me close, kissing me with a passion that made my knees weak. His hands moved to my waist, pulling me flush against him, and I could feel the evidence of his desire. "Tell me if I do anything you don't like," he murmured against my lips. "Tell me if you want to stop. Promise me." "I promise." What followed was a revelation. Andrew was patient and attentive, constantly checking in with me, making sure I was comfortable. He took his time removing my clothes, pressing kisses to each bit of revealed skin, telling me how beautiful I was, how much he wanted me. When he finally led me to his bed, I was trembling, not with fear but with anticipation. He showed me what it could be like to be truly desired, to have someone focused entirely on my pleasure. It was tender and passionate, overwhelming in the best possible way. Afterward, we lay tangled together, my head on his chest, his fingers running through my hair. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. "More than okay," I assured him. Andrew, that was incredible." He pressed a kiss to my forehead. "You were incredible. Thank you for trusting me with this." We stayed like that for a while, wrapped in comfortable silence, until I heard the front door open and close. Daniel's voice called out from downstairs. "I'm home. Anyone here?" Andrew and I looked at each other and smiled. "We should probably get dressed," I said, suddenly feeling shy. "Probably," Andrew agreed, though he made no move to let me go. "But for what it's worth, Daniel won't be upset. He'll be happy for us. For you." We eventually made ourselves presentable and went downstairs to find Daniel in the kitchen, pouring himself a glass of wine. He took one look at us, at my flushed cheeks and swollen lips, at Andrew's satisfied smile, and his expression softened. "So," he said with a knowing grin, "good afternoon?" I felt heat rush to my face, but Andrew just laughed and pulled me close. "Very good afternoon." Daniel crossed the room and cupped my face in his hands, searching my eyes. "Are you happy?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "Very happy." He kissed me then, sweet and gentle, and I felt the last of my reservations melt away. This was right. These two men, this unexpected relationship, it was exactly what I needed. The three of us prepared dinner together that evening, and the atmosphere was light and joyful. There was an ease between us now, a sense of rightness that hadn't been there before. We'd crossed a threshold and there was no going back, not that I wanted to. After dinner, we settled in the living room together. I sat between them on the large sofa, Andrew's arm around my shoulders, Daniel's hand resting on my knee. We talked about everything and nothing, and I felt a contentment I'd never experienced before. "I have a confession," Daniel said eventually. "I've been dying to kiss you like Andrew did. Really kiss you. Not just those sweet pecks but something more." I turned to him, emboldened by the events of the afternoon. "Then why haven't you?" "Because I wanted to make sure you were ready. That you wanted it." "I want it," I said firmly. "I want you." Daniel's kiss was different from Andrew's but equally intoxicating. Where Andrew was commanding and passionate, Daniel was tender and exploratory. He kissed me like he was trying to memorize every detail, like I was precious and rare. When we finally broke apart, I was breathless and wanting more. "Your bedroom?" I suggested quietly. Daniel's eyes darkened with desire. "Are you sure?" "Very sure." Andrew stood, helping me to my feet. "Go. I'll be here when you're done. Take your time." Daniel led me upstairs to his room, which was decorated in warmer tones than Andrew's, more books and art on the walls. He turned to me once the door was closed, his expression tender. "I've thought about this so many times," he admitted. "About being with you like this. But I need you to know, this isn't just physical for me. I'm falling in love with you, Alexander. Actually, I think I've already fallen. My heart swelled. I think I'm falling too. With both of you. Is that crazy? No, he said, pulling me close. It's perfect. What I shared with Daniel was different from my time with Andrew, but equally beautiful. Daniel was gentle and reverent, treating my body like a work of art. He took his time, learning what made me gasp, what made me arch into his touch. He whispered endearments in my ear, told me how long he'd wanted this, how beautiful I was, how much I meant to him. When we finally came together, it felt like coming home. Afterward, we lay in his bed and I traced patterns on his chest with my finger. Thank you, I whispered. For what? For showing me what this should be like. For being patient with me. For making me feel safe enough to try again. Daniel tilted my chin up so I had to meet his eyes. You never have to thank us for caring about you. That's what you do when you love someone. You cherish them, you protect them, you make sure they feel valued and safe. Noah never made me feel any of those things, I said quietly. I thought there was something wrong with me. That I wasn't enough. He was a fool, Daniel said fiercely. And his loss is our gain. We will spend every day showing you how extraordinary you are. We eventually made our way downstairs to find Andrew had prepared hot chocolate for all of us. He pulled me into a hug when he saw me, kissing the top of my head. Happy? He murmured. Deliriously, I confirmed. We spent the rest of the evening curled up together, the three of us, and I felt a peace I'd never known. This was what love was supposed to feel like, safe, warm, cherished. Life settled into a beautiful rhythm over the following months. I continued managing the household, but the lines between employee and partner had blurred completely. I was part of their lives now, truly part of them, and they were part of mine. We developed our own routines and rituals. Sunday mornings were for lazy breakfasts in bed, the three of us tangled together, trading kisses and gentle touches. Tuesday evenings were for gallery visits with Daniel, where he'd show me new acquisitions and teach me about art history. Thursday nights were for working alongside Andrew in his study, me reading while he sketched, comfortable in our silence. I'd never been happier. The scared, betrayed man who'd arrived at this mansion a year ago felt like a different person. Andrew and Daniel had helped me heal, helped me trust again, helped me believe that I was worthy of love. I should have known it was too perfect to last. The first sign of trouble came on a crisp autumn morning. I was at the farmer's market, selecting fresh produce for the week's meals, when I heard a familiar voice. Alexander? I turned to find Noah standing there, and the sight of him was like a physical blow. He looked terrible, thinner than I remembered, with dark circles under his eyes and an unkempt appearance that was unlike him. Noah, I said flatly, my guard immediately up. What do you want? I didn't know you shopped here. I wasn't following you or anything. This is just a coincidence. Fine. Goodbye then. I started to walk away, but he caught my arm. Please wait. Can we talk? Just for a moment? Every instinct screamed at me to refuse, to walk away and never look back. But something in his expression, a desperate sadness, made me pause. You have 5 minutes, I said, pulling my arm free. We moved to a quieter corner of the market, away from the bustling crowds. Noah ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I remembered from when he was stressed. I know you have no reason to listen to me, he started. I know I destroyed your trust and hurt you in ways I can never make up for. But I need to tell you, I made a terrible mistake. You mean lying to me for 2 years and carrying on an affair with your doctor? I said coldly. Yes, all of it. Alexander, Mick left me. He married someone else. A wealthy art collector he met through his practice. Apparently our relationship was never as serious to him as it was to me. I was just convenient. Despite everything, I felt a flicker of sympathy. I knew what betrayal felt like. But it didn't change what Noah had done to me. I'm sorry that happened to you, I said carefully. But I don't know why you're telling me this. Because I've had time to think. To realize what I lost. You were good to me, Alexander. You were kind and patient and loving, and I threw it all away for someone who didn't actually care about me. I was wondering if maybe we could try again? Start fresh. I stared at him, incredulous. You cannot be serious. I am. I know it would take time, but... Noah, stop. Just stop. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my anger in check. What you did to me was unforgivable. You didn't just betray me, you lied to me every single day. You let me believe I was supporting you through a medical crisis when really you were just buying time with your lover. You made me doubt myself, made me think there was something wrong with our marriage that we needed to fix, when the only thing wrong was your deception. I know, and I'm sorry. Your apologies mean nothing. And even if they did, even if I could somehow forgive you, I've moved on. I have a life now, a real life with people who actually care about me. People who would never manipulate me the way you did. Noah's expression crumbled. You've met someone? That's none of your business. But yes, I have. And I'm happy. Truly, genuinely happy. Something I never was with you. Alexander, please? No. I'm done with this conversation. I'm done with you. I gave you my blessing when we divorced, remember? I told you I hoped you and Mick would be happy together. Well, I'm sorry that didn't work out for you, but it's not my problem anymore. Move on with your life, Noah. And leave me alone. I walked away without looking back, my hands shaking with adrenaline. The encounter had rattled me more than I wanted to admit. Seeing Noah again had brought back all those feelings of betrayal and inadequacy, even though I knew rationally that I'd moved past them. When I got home, Andrew was in his study and Daniel was at the gallery. I put away the groceries mechanically, trying to calm my racing thoughts. Alexander? Andrew's voice came from behind me. Are you all right? You look upset. I turned to find him watching me with concern, and suddenly the whole story came tumbling out. I told him about running into Noah, about his request for a second chance, about how angry and shaken the encounter had left me. Andrew listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he pulled me into his arms. I'm sorry you had to deal with that, he said quietly. Are you okay? I think so. It brought everything back, you know? All the hurt and the betrayal. And for a moment, I wondered if maybe I should have tried harder, if I gave up too easily. Stop, Andrew said firmly, pulling back to look at me. Don't do that to yourself. Noah made his choices. He lied to you and betrayed your trust. You didn't give up, you had the strength to walk away from something toxic. That takes courage. But what if he's really changed? What if he's genuinely sorry? Then that's his journey to go on, not yours. You don't owe him anything, Alexander. Not forgiveness, not a second chance, nothing. You've built a new life, and you deserve to enjoy it without his shadow hanging over you. I rested my head against his chest, letting his steady heartbeat calm me. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Always. You know, Daniel and I will always have your back, right? Whatever you need, whatever you're dealing with, we're here. That evening, when Daniel came home, I told him about the encounter as well. His reaction was more protective than Andrew's, his jaw tightening with anger on my behalf. If he bothers you again, you tell us immediately, he said. I don't care that he's your ex-husband. He has no right to approach you and ask for another chance after what he did. I don't think he will, I said. I was pretty clear about where we stand. But I was wrong. Over the next few weeks, Noah tried to contact me multiple times. Text messages at first, apologizing and asking to talk. Then phone calls that I declined. Finally, he started showing up places. The coffee shop where I sometimes went to read, the bookstore downtown, once even waiting outside the mansion's gates until Andrew threatened to call the police. This is harassment, Andrew said angrily after that incident. We should get a restraining order. I don't want to escalate things, I said, though privately I was getting scared. Noah's behavior was becoming increasingly erratic, and I worried about what he might do next. The breaking point came on a Friday evening. Andrew and Daniel had taken me out to dinner at an upscale restaurant to celebrate the one-year anniversary of my coming to work for them, and, unspoken but understood, of our relationship beginning. We were laughing over dessert and I was feeling happy and loved, when Noah appeared at our table. Alexander, please, he said, ignoring Andrew and Daniel completely. Just give me 5 minutes to explain. Leave, Andrew said, his voice cold and commanding. Now. This is between me and my husband. Ex-husband, I corrected, standing up. Noah, this has to stop. I've told you repeatedly that I'm not interested in reconciling. I've moved on. You need to accept that and move on too. But I love you. You don't love me, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. You love the idea of me. You love having someone who was devoted to you, who put up with your lies and manipulation. But you never actually loved me as a person. If you had, you never would have treated me the way you did. Noah's face crumpled and I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I'm happy now, I continued. Truly, deeply happy in a way I never was with you. So please, for both our sakes, leave me alone. Don't contact me, don't show up where I am, just let me go. Security had arrived by this point, alerted by the restaurant staff. They escorted Noah out and the manager apologized profusely for the disturbance. Andrew and Daniel flanked me as we left, both protective and concerned. That's it, Daniel said once we were in the car. We're getting a restraining order. this has gone too far. I didn't argue this time. Noah's behavior had crossed a line, and I needed to protect myself and the life I'd built. The legal process was surprisingly quick, especially after we showed evidence of Noah's repeated unwanted contact. Within a week, I had a restraining order in place and Noah was legally required to stay away from me. How do you feel? Andrew asked that evening as we sat together in the living room. Relieved, I admitted, and a little sad. Not because I want him back, but because it's really, truly over now. That part of my life is completely closed. Is that a bad thing? Daniel asked gently. No, I said, looking between them. It's actually a good thing. It means I can fully commit to this, to us, without any lingering connections to my past. It means I'm free to move forward. Andrew pulled me close, pressing a kiss to my temple. Then let's focus on moving forward. Together. The restraining order worked. Noah stopped trying to contact me, and I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd finally accepted reality and was trying to rebuild his life elsewhere. His business had failed, apparently, and he'd moved to another city for a fresh start. I felt nothing but relief. Meanwhile, my life with Andrew and Daniel continued to blossom. We'd long since stopped pretending I was merely their employee. I still managed the household because I enjoyed it, but it was our home now, the three of us together. One Saturday morning, about 18 months after I'd first moved into the mansion, I woke to find both brothers already up and dressed, sitting on the edge of the bed with mysterious smiles. What's going on? I asked, stretching and yawning. Get dressed, Andrew said. Something comfortable. We're taking you somewhere. Where? It's a surprise, Daniel said, his eyes twinkling. Trust us. Always, I said without hesitation. An hour later, we pulled up to a beautiful gallery space in the Arts District. The windows were papered over, and there was a "Coming Soon" sign on the door. What is this? I asked as Daniel unlocked the door. Your birthday present, Andrew said. A few months early. We stepped inside and I gasped. The space was stunning, high ceilings, perfect lighting, beautiful hardwood floors. It was empty now, but I could immediately see its potential. We know you've been talking about wanting to do something more with your literature degree, Daniel said. And you mentioned once that you'd love to open a bookshop-cafe combination, a place where people could come to read and meet and discuss books. This is that place, Andrew finished. If you want it, it's yours. We've already handled the lease and the startup costs. You just need to design it, stock it, and bring your vision to life. I stared at them, overwhelmed. You bought me a bookshop? We're investing in your dream, Daniel corrected. Because we believe in you. Because we want to see you thrive and grow and build something that's entirely yours. Tears streamed down my face, happy tears this time. I can't believe you did this. Believe it, Andrew said, wrapping an arm around me. You've given us so much, Alexander. You've made our house a home, made our lives complete. We wanted to give you something meaningful in return. I turned to face them both, these two incredible men who'd come into my life when I needed them most, who'd helped me heal and learn to trust again, who'd shown me what real love looked like. I love you, I said, the words coming easily now. Both of you. So much. We love you too, they said in unison, and we stood there in my future bookshop, wrapped in each other's arms, and I felt complete. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. I threw myself into designing and launching the bookshop, which I named Second Chapters, a nod to my own journey of starting over. Andrew helped with the architectural and design elements, Daniel helped curate an art collection for the walls, and together we built something beautiful. The grand opening was a huge success, with friends, family, and community members all coming to celebrate. My parents were there, tears in their eyes as they saw how happy I was. Even they had to admit that my divorce from Noah, as painful as it had been, had led me to something better. Sarah and Marcus came too, grinning at how far I'd come from that heartbroken man who'd hidden in his studio apartment. Look at you, Sarah said, hugging me tight. You're glowing. This place is amazing, and those two men of yours are clearly crazy about you. I'm crazy about them too, I admitted. I never thought I'd be able to trust again after Noah, but they made it easy. They made it safe. As the evening wound down and the last guests left, I found myself alone in the bookshop with Andrew and Daniel. We walked through the space, admiring the shelves of books, the cozy reading nooks, the small cafe area in the back. This is perfect, I said softly. All of this. The bookshop, this life, you too. It's everything I never knew I wanted. You deserve it all, Daniel said, pulling me close. You deserve every happiness. Come here, Andrew said, and when I moved toward him, he dropped to one knee. My heart stopped. Alexander, he said, pulling out a small velvet box. I know we've only been together officially for about a year and a half, but I've known for much longer than that. You're it for me. For us. We want to make this official, permanent. Will you marry us? It wouldn't be legal, obviously, Daniel added quickly, also dropping to one knee beside his brother. But we'd have a ceremony, exchange rings, make promises to each other. We'd be committed in every way that matters. I looked at the ring Andrew was holding, a beautiful band with 3 stones intertwined, and felt my heart overflow. Yes, I said, laughing through my tears. Yes, absolutely yes. They slipped the ring on my finger and both kissed me, and I felt like the luckiest person in the world. We planned the ceremony for the following spring, in the garden of the mansion where I'd first found refuge. It was intimate, just close friends and family, but it was perfect. I wore a tailored suit in soft dove gray, and both Andrew and Daniel wore complementary shades of charcoal. We'd written our own vows, and as we stood together under an arch covered in climbing roses, I felt the weight of my past finally lift completely. Alexander, Andrew began, his voice strong and clear. When you came into our lives, I didn't know I'd been waiting for you. But from that first day you changed everything. You brought warmth and joy and love into our home and more importantly into our hearts. I promise to cherish you every day, to support your dreams, to stand by your side through whatever comes. I promise to love you fiercely and completely for all my days. Daniel went next. Alexander, you taught me that the heart is capable of healing even the deepest wounds. You showed me what it means to be brave, to trust again after betrayal, to open yourself to love even when you're afraid. I promise to honor that courage, to never take your trust for granted, to make you feel safe and valued and adored. I promise to be your partner, your friend, your home. Always. By the time it was my turn, I was crying openly, but I didn't care. Andrew, Daniel, I said, looking between them. You found me when I was broken and helped piece me back together. You showed me what real love looks like, patient, honest, generous. You taught me that I deserved to be happy, that my past didn't define my future. I promise to love you both with everything I have, to build a life with you that's full of joy and laughter and adventure. I promise to trust you with my heart, because I know now that it's safe with you. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for this second chance at happiness. We exchanged rings, matching bands that we'd had custom made, and when the officiant pronounced us united, we kissed as our friends and family cheered. It wasn't legal in the traditional sense, but it felt more real and binding than my actual marriage to Noah ever had. The reception was held in the mansion, with fairy lights strung through the garden and soft music playing. We danced together, all 3 of us, not caring what anyone thought. This was our love story, unconventional as it might be, and we were going to celebrate it fully. Later that evening, after the guests had left and we'd changed into comfortable clothes, we found ourselves in the master bedroom, Andrew's room, though we'd long since begun sharing spaces freely. Come here, Andrew said, pulling me onto the bed with him. Daniel settled on my other side and we lay there together, content and complete. Happy? Daniel asked, pressing a kiss to my shoulder. Deliriously, I said, echoing the word I'd used that first night we'd all been together. Although what? Andrew asked, propping himself up on an elbow to look at me. I felt heat rise to my cheeks. Although I was thinking this would be a good night to properly celebrate. All 3 of us together. We'd been intimate separately many times and occasionally in pairs, but never all 3 at once. It had felt too overwhelming, too intense. But tonight, on what was essentially our wedding night, it felt right. Andrew's eyes darkened with desire, and Daniel's hand tightened on my waist. Are you sure? Daniel asked. We don't want to rush you. I'm sure, I said firmly. I want this. I want you both. I want to feel completely connected to you in every way. What followed was tender and passionate, overwhelming in the best possible way. They took their time with me, making sure I was comfortable and cared for, building pleasure slowly until I was trembling with need. Andrew kissed me deeply while Daniel's hands explored my body, learning every sensitive spot. Then they switched and I lost myself in the sensation of being touched and cherished by both of them. You're so beautiful, Andrew murmured against my skin. So perfect. Our beautiful Alexander, Daniel agreed, pressing kisses along my collarbone. We're so lucky to have you. When we finally came together, it was transcendent. They moved with me and around me, creating a rhythm that felt natural and right. There was no awkwardness, no uncertainty, just love and trust and overwhelming pleasure. Afterward, we lay tangled together, sweaty and satisfied and happy. I was nestled between them, feeling completely safe and cherished. I love you both so much, I whispered into the darkness. We love you too, they said together, and I smiled.